right, everyone. Welcome into another episode of Fantasy Premier League with Man McMahon. It's the off week, it's the international break, but that doesn't mean there ain't stuff going on. The biggest news, of course, Ronaldo is back, baby. He's returning to Man United. It's a good time to be a Man United fan. Oh, it's good stuff. And it's like I think there are exactly two groups of people happy about Ronaldo returning: Man United fans and fantasy managers. That's about it, because you know this man is going to be points every week. Even if they're not going to be stellar points, they are guaranteed points. At least 6 points a week. If it's less than 6 points, he must have had a broken leg within the second minute. That's the only reason he's scoring less than 6 points. Anyway, this episode is going to be focused on how to get Ronaldo into your team and still have a decent team for the game week, because there are a bunch of different teams that have good matchups. 4 that I'm going to focus in on, so that you can have Ronaldo and also have a good lineup match where you're essentially tripling up on the good matchup players. So that's going to be focusing on the Liverpool versus Leeds matchup, Chelsea versus Villa, Tottenham versus Palace, and United versus Newcastle. And before we get into this, I'm going to be saying that every single lineup is based around a 3-4-3 formation, and no matter what budget you have, like I obviously had, like my squad's increased in value, so I have a budget that's higher than 100. All of these should work for a budget of 100 baseline, but of course that's subject to any price changes that happen that haven't been locked in yet, and also, you know, keep an eye on the international break, because injuries still happen even if it's not Premier League. So without further ado, that's enough waffle. Let's get into it. We're going to start off with our first squad. All right, folks. Well, as you can see here, this is our first potential squad that you can run with for this week. It's focused in on the Chelsea versus Aston Villa matchup. As you can see, Lukaku there is the center forward. You have Mount in the midfield, and you have Alonso at the back. What you'll see as a common theme throughout all these squads is you're going to have both Williams and Johnson as your bench defenders. You're going to have Allen as your bench midfielder. Allen's good because he's actually he's a good bargain pickup at 4.5. So in the event that, you know, somebody does not play, like say Bergwijn or Benrahma can't play time for whatever reason, Allen can sub in pretty well. The other part is the goalies. Sanchez for Brighton, he's always going to be their starter. He's 4.5. It's a good value. And then whatever 4 value goalie as your bench goalie, it doesn't matter. This is the reason why I do it like this, 3-4-3, is that there aren't any 4.0 valued midfielders that would just be left as bench. So obviously, the less you leave on the bench, the more you can have on the field. But as you can see, like I said, Alonso, Mount, Lukaku, you have Ronaldo there. Mikel Antonio and Benrahma, they are going to be there in every squad because they also have a really good matchup. It's West Ham versus Southampton. So I'm very highly suggesting that you keep those two in there. Luka Dean, Everton is going up against Burnley. That should be a really good matchup. And then Tottenham against Palace. You can see we got Son and Bergwijn. So this is like one of the premier squads. Like if you can get this in there, like when you look at what your starting would be, you'd have Ronaldo, Lukaku, Antonio, Mount, Bergwijn, Son, Benrahma, and then Alonso, Varane, Digne, and Sanchez and net. This is a very, very solid team. If you have, and this is more geared like if you had already had Chelsea players in your squad from last week or previous weeks, or you already had some Tottenham players, or you had Varane. It's just geared to whatever you can do without getting hit in the transfer deductions. This is what this is one of the better teams that you can make. All right, so here we are. We are on to the next squad, our second squad, focusing in on Liverpool as they're taking on Leeds. This should be a fairly easy matchup for them, but yeah, you never know. But without further ado, our 3 main players, we got Salah, we've got Jota, and we've got Trent Alexander-Arnold. A very, very nice trio from Liverpool. Then obviously we have Ronaldo. We also have Greenwood, and then Richarlison. Like we said, Everton has a great match against Burnley, and it's also unknown whether or not Dominic Calvert-Lewin will be playing. He had to miss the international break. He is not playing for England due to both a broken toe and a muscle strain, which I believe is his thigh. So, and I know he's been dealing with the toe injury since, like, he picked it up during preseason, been playing through it, and now, something had to give, and it gave. So if Richarlison is now the main guy, like, he could have a very, very good week. Obviously, we saw Mikel Antonio and Benrahma. Then, completing the back three, we have Sanchez and Reguilon. Very, very good low price, high value pickup. Sanchez and Reguilon have had great seasons so far for Spurs. They're going up against Palace. Palace may have found their form because they forced a 2-2 draw with West Ham. Up to that point, they had not scored a goal, but I'm confident that Spurs, even if they don't hold the clean sheet, they're also two that can get involved in the attack, whether it's off of corners or running up the wing with Reguilon. There is a good chance that they can get involved in the attacking play. So, recap: Ronaldo, Richarlison, Antonio, Salah, Jota, Greenwood, Benrahma, Alexander-Arnold, Sanchez, Reguilon. That's your starting 11, and then you have Allen, Johnson, Williams on the bench, and then Sanchez gets starting, Runnerson on the bench. It's a solid squad. I would say that I prefer the Chelsea lineup to this one. However, if you have Liverpool players in your team already, this way it minimizes the number of transfers you have to make. All right, so here is our third potential squad, focused in around the Man United versus Newcastle matchup. So we have Ronaldo, we have Greenwood. Those are pretty self-explanatory. Greenwood's been a dog all season, and Ronaldo's Ronaldo. Some people might be questioning the inclusion of Fernandes here. Well, yes, he is now getting into that overpriced category. I'd say this is the last week where you'd want to hold on to him. He is still very good from open play, but a lot of his value is tied into how much he owned the set pieces for United, and that's going to probably change now that Ronaldo's here. Rounding out the forwards, we have Antonio, who we talked about, and then Calvert-Lewin. I mentioned his injury earlier. If he can play, it's great. Like, he's been playing through that injury since preseason, but now it's gotten worse that he won't play for England. But he's got 2 weeks to rehabilitate himself. So if he can play, it's great, because Burnley is just a feeding ground for forwards. But if he can't play, I would suggest the replacement of Jimenez from Wolves. Wolves have finally got past their bad luck. They have a fixture that they should dominate, like 1-0 against Leicester, 1-0 against Tottenham, 1-0 against United. They were all just super unlucky to be on the losing end of those matchups, because they've dominated those games as well. So now they're going up against Watford. Jimenez would be a very, very viable replacement. Or if you just want him instead of Calvert-Lewin, that's also fine too. We've talked about pretty much everybody else in this squad, except for Christensen for Chelsea. Just a very solid backline guy, great defender, and he can even get the occasional header goal off corners. So that's our lineup: Calvert-Lewin, Ronaldo, Antonio, Fernandes, Mount, Greenwood, Benrahma, Luka Dean, Reguilon, and Christensen, and then Sanchez. And then you have your bench of Allen, Williams, Johnson, and Runnerson. This is a very solid team. Like Mount, I expect him to get some good assists, like if he's going to be feeding Lukaku, or he can get some goals if he's actually like pushing up high enough and actually going to attack. This is a solid squad. I very much like this squad. This one, I think, this one and the Chelsea one that I created, they're on par with each other. All right, here is our fourth and final squad, centered around the Spurs versus Crystal Palace matchup. From Spurs, we got Kane, Son, and we've got Reguilon. Kane's been in a bit of a slump to start off. It hasn't played great. I would have expected a little something more from him last week. He wasn't in my team, thankfully, but I did have Son who got the goals. So, but Kane and Son, if they can find their chemistry, get it going, that should be a great, like, this should be a great fixture for them, because they're going up against Palace. Yeah, they finally scored a goal. They forced a draw with West Ham 2-2. But this is Spurs, and like Kane and Son, it's a deadly duo. And Kane's actually fallen down in price, so this makes him a better acquisition right now, because this is very much a buy low moment, because he will increase once he gets going. As for the rest of the squad, we've got Ronaldo, obviously, we got Antonio. Rounding out the midfield, Benrahma, Mount, and also Pascal Gross. And the reason I put him in here is he's a solid player. He's also their set piece guy in terms of free kicks and penalty kicks. And they're going up against Brentford, where they have a chance to, even if they don't win, he should still get involved in both assists and goals. Backline, you got Reguilon, as we mentioned, Varane, who had a great debut for Manchester United against Wolves, and then Rudiger is your third defender. It's a solid back line there, because Rudiger, he's a lot like Christensen, who I mentioned before, except he gets that much more involved. And now Varane, who got the assist on the Greenwood goal, is going to be the reason. If Man United keep a clean sheet, chances are this guy was the reason. And then Reguilon, mentioned him earlier, he was in another squad that we had. He has that potential to get involved, both defensively and offensively. Pascal Gross, solid midfielder. And Mason Mount, we talked about him before. This is a solid squad. Alright, so that about does it for me. These squads are just some starter ideas for you in case you had some players in your lineup and you weren't sure who you wanted to sub out for Ronaldo, how you wanted to approach game week 4 and future game weeks. But this, anything that I suggest, feel free to mix and match, whatever. I won't be too offended if you see my idea, I kind of but let me change up. I can make it better, because I'm sure you can. Yeah, so that's about it. I appreciate you watching this point of the video if you did. if you enjoyed it. Feel free to leave a like, comment, subscribe, and I'll be doing this next week where you get to see my Game Week 4 team reveal in terms of what my plan is for Game Week 4 and how it sets me up better for the future game weeks. All right, that's it for me. I'll see you next time. Peace.